Hello, hello, and welcome to my review for One Piece Chapter 1103. This will be the last chapter of 2023, and we won't get our next chapter for 3 weeks, so it's going to be quite the long wait. It will be worth it, I suppose, as we are now heading into what may be the climax of the Egghead Island arc, and that's going to be a really big event to witness, so we'll probably be starting off 2024 with a bang. We got a nice cover for Shonen Jump. It's all the characters from the various shows in dragon costumes, celebrating the upcoming year of the dragon. That's very nice. Notes from Oda. Happy New Year. My resolutions are to have more barbecues and draw even more manga. Great revelations from Oda. We've got a color spread. It's got the whole crew on clouds eating meat and shish kebabs and cola and stuff. Interestingly, this spread has Momonosuke in his dragon form in the background eating a bunch of kebabs, and Yamato also eating kebabs. So this is a nice, interesting, I guess they're floating on clouds created by Momonosuke since he's in his dragon form. This is obviously another celebration of the Year of the Dragon, so because Momonosuke is a dragon here. Also, I guess a little bit more Wano celebration since Wano is ending in the anime, or has already ended in the anime over the past, I believe, 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So very recently, Wano ended in the anime, so that's a way of celebrating that. Okay, first panel. Bonnie finally knows. Bonnie, you saw everything? I did. So this is Bonnie talking to Vegapunk right after she touched the bubble, I'm assuming. She's got a runny nose and her face is red. She's just finished all that crying. Now I've really done it. I broke my promise to Kuma. Step, step. Oof. So Bonnie walked up to Vegapunk and shrunk down to her true age and hugged him. I'm sorry, Vegapunk. So she apologized to Vegapunk for blaming him and trying to kill him. What's this? A gift Kuma left with me? For what's this? A gift Kuma left with me for your 10th birthday. From Dad? That's great. A sapphire necklace. How pretty. It looks like the sun. I'll treasure it forever. He said it's a protective charm. Honestly, though, it's hard to believe what that kid has become after only 2 years. Straw Hat. So he's the son of Dad's old buddy, right? Indeed. I was stunned when you both showed up together. Fate is a strange thing. A lot has happened on Egghead while you've been in that room. The Straw Hat crew saved me just now, in fact. I'll explain everything when we can meet up with them when things have calmed down. I'm sorry for everything, Bonnie. Now you know how worthless I am. A mere scientist for hire following his orders. You're wrong. The real villain is him. Now Bonnie is aging herself up So I think Bonnie heard what was going on outside as Saturn was arriving, so she aged herself up in preparation to fight him. Now we are at the present, Egghead, New World. And we've got that scene where Saturn is holding up Bonnie and ordering all the Marines around to fire at her head. Jewelry Bonnie, the pirate. Your father, Kuma, is truly dead. Now we've got Sanji and Frankie paralyzed. Vegapunk. Damn it, why can't I move? Bonnie. We've got Kizaru lying down, thinking, Sentomaru-kun, Bonnie. And then Bonnie reacting. Luffy is still down and all dried out. Food, someone give me food. Meat. I would if I could, but my body. Vegapunk's bodyguard is in custody. I repeat, we've got Sentomaru. We can't confirm the situation since we can't. Any word on the status of things here? We can't confirm the situation since commodores below aren't allowed to approach. A siege involving an emperor? It'll be a miracle if there are no casualties. The scale is bigger than the Ohara incident. Please be safe, Dr. Vegapunk. So we've got people on the island reading the news and talking about the situation. Oh, there's Dragon. Assuming there's still a trace of Kuma in there. Where would his instincts take him, Eva? If it was me, I would storm Merjois for some payback. But as we know, Kuma is different. So you got Ivankov and Dragon speculating where Kuma has gone to. Okay, we've got the Marine soldiers aiming their guns at Bonnie. If I'm gonna get killed here anyway, then distorted future, Nika-ish. She's done the distorted future again. She's got the large body, and interesting, her fist is retracting like she's doing the Kong, was it the Kong organ from Luffy's Gear 4? The Kong organ, I believe. That's what it looks like. Saturn is responding, thinking, Nika? And he's shocked. Future? What the? I suddenly feel weak again. Ah! So suddenly Bonnie went back to her regular form. And the attack completely dissipated. So you too know that name. You really are his daughter. That being said, you don't fully understand its meaning. Now he's thinking, it seems she hasn't drawn the connection between Nika and that Straw Hat's new white form. How pathetic. Where did that food come from? Who's responsible for this? put him in sea stone cuffs immediately. We've got lots of food around Luffy, and he's eating as fast as he can, stuffing himself. Get him! Kizaru is sitting up, and he's silent, not saying anything. So where did that food come from? I guess perhaps the implication is that Kizaru delivered the food to Luffy while everyone was distracted. Okay, now Bonnie in the next panel. What's with this Kizaru? I can't even change his age. Bonnie, you owe that power of yours to me. Huh? We conducted experiments to determine whether extract infusions could grant a baby an ability without feeding them the fruit normally. Oh ho! Now we're getting an explanation for how Bonnie got her powers. Because it was strange, but didn't she mention in the flashback that she ate a fruit? So what exactly happened? If the fruit was not a devil fruit, was it a regular fruit that they infused with a regular fruit that they infused with the powers of the devil fruit? And if that's the case, does that mean that devil fruits can now be cloned? Because if Bonnie got her powers from an extract or infusion of the real devil fruits, the real age fruit, then does that mean the real age fruit still exists somewhere, or that someone has eaten it? Someone has eaten the real fruit and Bonnie has a copy of that power. This would mean that devil fruit powers could be doubled up. Which I guess that is already sort of on the table with the lineage factor in the Seraphim, but this is on a different level because with Seraphim, of course, you have to have the green blood created by Vegapunk from the genetic material of the original power holders. In this case, we are talking about taking the extract of devil fruit and using that. So does this all link back to Vegapunk's artificial devil fruit experiment? But Vegapunk, I believe he said that he had only perfected creating artificial zone devil fruits, which is why Momonosuke has essentially Kaido's fruit, except he's pink when he transforms into a dragon, which Vegapunk considered a defect. That's the only difference between Momonosuke and Kaido's fruit, as I understand it so far. So we've got a pretty big revelation about science and how far science has progressed in terms of copying / understanding the devil fruit powers on that level at the very least. And Bonnie was an experiment. So even though the world government promised not to hurt Bonnie, they didn't exactly promise not to experiment on her. So they secretly experimented on her. Which Kuma probably wouldn't have approved of. And Vegapunk certainly wouldn't have approved of it. So okay, back to the panel. The panel also mentions, interestingly enough, that Bunny can't use her powers on Saturn. So is Saturn immune to devil fruit powers, or is this a hockey thing? Perhaps it's hockey, and Saturn's hockey is overwhelming Bonnie's ability to transform him. So we have a question mark surrounding another question mark surrounding Saturn's abilities. If it's hockey that is stopping Bonnie from using her powers on him, or if it's something else, something entirely new. Okay, so what's with this geezer? I can't even change his age. Bonnie, you owe that power of yours to me, huh? We conducted experiments to determine whether extract fusions could grant a baby an ability without feeding them the fruit normally. Now Bonnie's shocked and looking at her hand. It was a success, but the fruit itself is now useless. But the fruit itself is useless now. Its ability can transform you into a state that matches any future perceived to be possible. But that means the possibilities become limited as your future becomes more certain, as you uncover the truth. Wait a second. It was a success, but the fruit itself is useless now. So is that referencing to the original HH fruit? So once they give the extract to someone, it's the same as taking a bite out of the original fruit, and the rest of the fruit basically goes dormant and the power enters the person. I suppose that's what he's speaking about. The physical fruit itself. So there is no clone HH fruit in that case. Or is he talking about the fruit's ability being limited? Its ability can transform you into a state that matches any future perceived to be possible. But that means the possibilities become limited as your future becomes more certain, as you uncover the truth. So Bonnie's power works off of, if this is correct, then Bonnie's devil fruit power, her distorted future, works off of perceived possible futures. But they have to be perceived by the user to be possible. If the user doesn't perceive those futures as possible anymore, the power doesn't work anymore. So, how does that work? Let's think with Bonnie's Nika-ish future. See, but Bonnie always believed that Nika existed out there. So, her knowing about the existence of Nika shouldn't affect her distorted future because she always believed that Nika exists as a possibility. Is it that when she was younger, she believed in the possibility that she could be Nika? Even though that didn't seem possible because it was never indicated that Bonnie, when she was younger, believed that she could be Nika. What exactly is the limiting factor here? What truth does she uncover? That might be explained in the next panel, so I should probably read that. Nika is just an impossible myth you wanted to believe in. Nika's real. I've been looking for him to save Dad ever since you turned him into your cyborg slave. Now I've got a shot of Kuma flying towards Egghead. Yet your sudden weakening proves you're starting to doubt whether his existence is possible. Ah, that's the thing. So if Bonnie doubts the existence of a potential future or a perceived future, then that future won't work. So it depends on if it's a future that she can possibly conceive of, but she has to believe that thing exists / is possible for her fruit to work. Okay. Yet your sudden weakening proves you are starting to doubt whether his existence is possible. Your father just passed on a worthless buccaneer legend. He once told me that he wanted to save people just like Nika. Now we've got a shot of young Kuma saying that. Your mother being brought to the Holy Land to be wife number 8 is ironic, really. She ended up being part of my drug experiments. So the theory is confirmed here. The theory is confirmed here that it was Saturn. Saturn is Bonnie's biological father. He was the one who took Jenny. Well, he didn't take Jenny, but he took Jenny as his wife when Jenny was brought to the Holy Land. But that still brings up the question, who captured Jenny? I guess someone captured her. Marine or government agent captured her because of her status as a revolutionary captain, made her a slave, brought her to Merijoa. Saturn saw her and chose her as wife number 8. Used her as part of his drug experiments, which means he probably purposely exposed her to the sapphire scale for experimental purposes. Then he released her, knowing that she was doomed, so she wouldn't go back to revolutionaries and continue on as a threat to the world government as revolutionary captain. Okay. Back to the panel. Your mother being brought to the Holy Land to be my wife, number 8, is ironic, really. She ended up being part of my drug experiments. Bonnie shocked. Like the other failures, she developed sapphire scale. I knew the results were poor, but to think the condition passed on to her child as well. What? What? Crash. Something landed over there. I think that's Kuma landing on Egghead. Now Bonnie is crying. Everything. It was all you. And now here's Egghead yelling in rage. Or not Egghead. Vegapunk yelling in rage. Experiments! How dare you, Saturn! Those sapphire scales tore Kuma's family apart. They're the reason why he threw his life away. You used it as a bargaining chip when you were the one responsible. Look at it from my perspective. Do you comprehend the feelings of the insects you step on? Of course not. Ooh, shake. Is that a pacifista? No, look at his palms. He has paws. This is an urgent report from the southwest coast. The ex-warlord of the sea, Bartholomew Kuma, has made landfall, sitting straight for the center of the island. Our authority chip commands aren't working. Can't stop him. Saturn, hearing that report. What a fiasco. How could Kuma possibly be here? Bonnie, I can't hold on. I'm so scared. Vegapunk, he's here now? Stop him, fire at will. Yes, sir. They're all firing their guns at Kuma as he's running along. I can't force myself to speak anymore. And Kuma running. Kuma getting shot in the side of the head with a cannonball and it's exploding. Daddy, it feels like my heart is shattering. Kuma looks like he's tripping and falling over, and their Marine officers are firing more bullets at him and more cannons. Bang. Open fire! Don't stop till you're out of ammo. At this point, I think I'd be better off dead. This is it. Now Bonnie is sobbing. I'm so sorry, Daddy. Sanji is screaming. Kuma is still running. All that shrieking is unbearably noisy, you insufferable waif. Ah, blow her head off. And the Marine soldiers are taking aim. There's a shot of Kuma's face. Boom. Explosions, looks like explosions on either side of Saturn took out all the Marine officers that were aiming at Bonnie. I'm so sorry, Daddy. Saturn dropped Bonnie. And he's trying to stomp on her. He fought really hard for me to live, but there's Kuma's paw. And Kuma arrives. He scoops up Bonnie and protects her as Saturn stomps into Kuma's back with his claw. Daddy! Chick, chick. It's Bartholomew Kuma. And Kuma turns around and grabs the claw. He pulls back his fist. It's coated with armament haki from the looks of it, so Kuma has armament haki, which is to be expected. And he is rearing back and firing off a big punch at Saturn. Saturn is shocked as he sees the punch approaching, and the chapter ends. A Father's Fury. Chapter 1103 end. And Bonnie has de-aged back to her 10-year-old self, and she's crying. Finally seeing Kuma after all this time. So we're gonna, when we finally get back, we'll see what happens when this punch connects. Kuma's using armament hockey. I guess he's caught Saturn off guard, so Saturn doesn't have the concentration and reaction time to use his eye power to disable him. I suppose we'll find out if hockey works on Saturn through this punch, and if it does, that will further confirm that Luffy should be able to damage Saturn if he attacks him at full strength. We might also get some sort of confirmation about Devil Fruit powers, potentially, or what power Saturn has. Because if it's hockey that's negating Devil Fruit powers, then it should be the same. Kuma won't be able to use his Paw Paw powers directly on Saturn, but he might still be able to do things like the Ursus Shock, which are more AoE attacks, and the damage comes from the explosion from the air pressure rather than the Paw Paw power itself. But Kuma has taken a lot. He's taken shots. He's got a sort of Whitebeard situation going on where he's taking so much damage from attacks from the Marine soldiers getting to Bonnie. And that's on top of the damage he took flying there and from Mary Joie when he encountered Akainu. So Kuma's here. He's going to be in the fight. Luffy is recovering. He's eating food as fast as he can to recover his strength, and then he will be ready to use Gear 5. Kizaru is awake, and I think he's going to try to stay out of this as much as possible, but he might be forced into the fight. And judging from his seeming to regret how things have turned out, I think if he joins the fight, he might be joining on the side of Kuma and the Straw Hats. So we are definitely in the middle of the climax at this point. We've got some interesting reveals. We still need a little bit more information, but now we know. We have confirmation on things that we sort of suspected, but we now know for sure. Saturn is Bonnie's biological father. Saturn was the celestial dragon that Ginny was taken to and became the wife of. Saturn experimented on her, gave her the sapphire scale. She died and passed on the sapphire scale to Bonnie. Saturn used it as a bargaining chip to get Kuma to surrender himself to the world government. We got some confirmation about limitations on Bonnie's power. So it does have limitations based on Bonnie herself, the user's will. If the user believes something to be possible, a possibility in the future, then she can use that distorted future. So she doesn't have to believe that she herself is Sun God Nika. She just has to believe that Sun God Nika exists, and then it's a perceived possibility. She can use the distorted future. And I guess this does confirm that when she uses the distorted future, her body does gain rubber-like properties. for that short time for that attack. And it seems that's all she gains is the rubber power. She hasn't drawn the connection between Nika and that Straw Hat's new white form. So if Bonnie draws that connection, if she uses the distorted future knowing that connection, would that change the form of her distorted future? I feel like it shouldn't, but it might. Would it make her distorted future look more like Gear 5 rather than Gear 4? So we got the food, the Luffy eating. Bonnie can't use her powers on Saturn, which confirms either Haki or something else, something that counters her devil fruit. So another experiment was extracting infusions from the devil fruit. I suppose the world government didn't have any idea how the HH fruit would work entirely. Which is why they were willing to use it in experiments with Bonnie. But he does seem to know a lot about the devil fruit. Like he knows about the distorted future ability entirely. So as the head of science, could Saturn have been responsible for studying and chronicling all the devil fruit powers? That would be interesting, because it would make him, perhaps he wrote the devil fruit encyclopedias or commissioned their writing. Okay, we got Kuma. And Saturn explaining. So we got Vegapunk. Actually yelling at Saturn and being enraged. So he's definitely not anywhere on the world government side anymore. Kuma arriving. So depending on how long Kuma can hold out, he's going to be fighting with Saturn. fight is probably going to buy time for Luffy to recover. Will Kuma be fighting alone, or will others be able to join him? Perhaps when Kuma lands his attack, that will create a break in his concentration, and the power that he's using to hold Sanji and Frankie down might fade away, and then Frankie and Sanji might be able to join into the fight. So it could end up being Frankie, Sanji, Kuma, Sanji, Kuma, perhaps Kizaru against Saturn, holding him off, and Luffy gets up. There's still also the question about that giant robot that could activate. It could still activate, and well, it's already activated, but it still could have the payoff here at the end of this arc. But if Kuma manages to land a blow between Bonnie and Kuma's attacks, we get the idea that at the very least some sort of damage can be done to Saturn. Then it becomes a question of do these guys have enough force to damage Saturn enough to actually disable or kill him? We are definitely heading towards that Egghead Island incident everyone's expecting, because it's a clash between a warlord and one of the 5 elders. That this is not going to be this is going to be an incident on the scale of Ohara. And is that referencing just the loss of life on Ohara, because that was an entire island that got wiped out? That might be the question, or a scale in reference to impact on the globe through the fallout of the Ohara incident. Could be referencing either one or both. In any case, we are heading towards the ultimate climax of that incident. We got confirmation that Kuma has armament haki, even though I would expect that's not the kind of thing that needs confirmation. Everyone in the New World basically has armament haki at the very least. Kuma being a warlord and a revolutionary, formerly a revolutionary, should be no different. But a very good chapter following up the last chapter. We're setting up events for Luffy to join back into the fight. That may be what we start things off with, depending on how the next chapter ends up going. Maybe Luffy shows up at the end of that chapter ready to fight. Or it might take a few chapters for Luffy to recover. Either way, the fight is heating up, approaching the climax of intensity. Maybe this is going to end with with Saturn being defeated, maybe not. At this point, it's still sort of up in the air. all depends on what the ultimate plan is for the sort of end game that will be approaching over the next several arcs. But it's a very solid chapter. Very interesting how it's setting things up. And we will see what happens in 3 weeks when the next chapter drops. So with that, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe for more. And I will catch you all in the next chapter. Take care.